Okay, folks, thanks very much for joining us. Appreciate your time this afternoon. So we're going to run through some insights that we've learned about de-risking your digital transformation. We'll take questions at the end. Feel free to pop any questions you have into the chat, and we'll be keeping an eye on those. And thanks again. So really what we're focusing on here is the fact that over 70% of digital transformation projects fail. And this is one of those big headline statistics that you see and you quite don't necessarily believe how it can be real. But between the two of us, we've worked on hundreds of different client installations throughout our careers, and we see the same trends throughout those. And now as Flowlens, we've kind of developed a formula to help our customers avoid that. Just as a bit of background, my name is Rich Dale. I'm the CEO of the company. I've been involved in cloud projects working on enabling enterprises through cloud technology my entire career. So nearly 25 years of doing that. And in the early days, working on bespoke projects, working on interesting workflow and optimization projects to really lean processes within businesses. And back in about 2013, 2014, saw the opportunity to create a product for the equipment manufacturing market. And we'll tell you a bit more about that in a second.
I'm Marv van Niekerk. Thanks again for your time. Originally from South Africa in Cape Town, been living in Ireland for the last 20 odd years, nearly as long as I've been an accountant, who actually loves customers. So not a common association that people might have, accountants who love customers. And my role within Flowlens is to make sure that we have happy customers who get value out of our product.
Thanks, Marv. So this webinar isn't really so much about us, but just so you know who we are a bit more and where we're coming from and our credentials. We work day and daily with customers to ensure the success of their digital transformation. And we do that by offering our cloud-based product. It's a joined up platform that helps SME equipment manufacturers to streamline and join up the sales, operational and after sales process. And all of that links through into the accounting package of their choice, typically Xero, QuickBooks, or Sage. As a business, we've been going since 2006. And as I said, I've been involved in the cloud for a lot longer than that. And we took the decision to transform ourselves into a product company and make Flowlens the best possible product that we can for the kind of customers that we serve in the market. And we focus on quite a specific niche. So the idea behind Flowlens is all about the ease of use. The product is very intuitive. All of the aspects of it are neatly arranged, but as a user, you only see what you need to see. But you can trust in the fact that there's a single source of information. So as you see there in our next diagram, the sales, operations, service, and marketing, all of this information feeds back into one single version of the truth. And then that helps drive efficiencies and creates insights into the business that people can't get from their spreadsheets and can't get from manual processes. And it's a very affordable cloud product, and it's very easy to integrate with the likes of Xero and QuickBooks.
So to put in some sort of context of where we're coming from, a typical Flowlens customer manufactures high value products and equipment, whether in-house assembly and in-house manufacturing. For example, electrical devices, energy systems, measuring and monitoring devices, agricultural equipment, and industrial machinery.
We're quite proud of the many companies that have chosen to work with us. And as you'll see through the presentation, we've got a few quotes about our kind of customers' experience of digital transformation. But if you'd like to check out our website, we've got quite an array of case studies and videos that you can watch to see the real impact of that. So just to run through the agenda quickly, we want to help you understand where the risks are, and we're going to talk about business objectives, alignment, the business processes themselves, and what requirements you have, how you will make sure that that change happens by creating an accountable owner. And then when you figure all of that out, looking at the market and understanding what are the right tools for the job, and how are you going to make a success of the implementation. Our experience working with many small businesses is we understand you don't have the capacity, you don't have that extra person that you can just throw at a project like this typically. So you have to rebuild the airplane while it's still in flight, but it is worth it. Basically, what we're looking at here and those agenda points that I was talking about were the covering actually the buyer journey, and what we see that typically when customers contact us that they've missed a few steps. So the idea of trialing a piece of software can be very attractive, but the issue is that whenever you're trialing a piece of software, how do you know whether it fits with what your business requirements are? So we're going to talk through those steps and kind of reposition where you should start in the process.
So generally, the change or the desire and the motivation to change systems is driven by something, and understanding those requirements is key for this system change to be a success. Working from home over the last 12 to 18 months has been a huge driver for people changing and adapting their systems. Other reasons could be future-proofing the business for a future sale, filling a vacancy where somebody who's been with the business for a long time has retired or has left the business. And this has left open also the opportunity to improve a process. Sometimes there are strategic value, business plans, business goals that a business wants to achieve in 2 to 3 years' time. And they start forward planning with what systems do I need to put in place today to be able to reach that goal. Something similar that we see with our next slide.
So this is Wayne Kramer. You can visit our website and see a video with Wayne going into more detail about the process of changing. But the thing that the catalyst for Wayne was that he saw the opportunity to grow his business through optimizing his processes, being able to tackle and take on more market share. And he'd set himself a challenge to double his turnover every year for 3 years. And he knew that part of that was going to be having a system. So that early realization of how am I going to get there, and working back from that vision was one of the reasons why he and GWE chose to go down a digital transformation path.
I think as
this is a favorite quote of mine, where if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. And it really just speaks to that point about alignment, which Marv will come on to now, and having that vision that everyone can get their heads around and everyone can get behind.
So next, as important as understanding the vision and the purpose for the new system or change in process or workflows is alignment. And that alignment is throughout the business, throughout any organization, throughout any team, from top to bottom. And there are some fairly, as Rich pointed out earlier, 70% of projects fail because one of the biggest factors is alignment, where examples that we've seen over the last 12 to 18 months, where the boss goes out, has a great idea of what he wants to do, where he wants to take the business, invests in a piece of software, and then goes, right, folks, here we are, and this is what we're doing. And suddenly the team are left 10 steps behind, and he's got a huge sales job to do internally to get people on board and bought into this whole project. So ownership of a change in process, a change in system is important from a buying perspective for the whole organization, not just a single individual driving it. The whole team has to be invested.
So again, the best projects that we see are where that alignment takes place, and the alignment has happened early on in defining the vision and the values and the direction of the company, in understanding what the company needs, and also getting involved in trialing software. So, and then that next bit is really critical.
Yeah, process. Any system relies on standard processes, and if a business has an opportunity in changing a system to review those processes, that's the perfect opportune time to do it. Again, you need to be talking to the people, the stakeholders who are involved in those processes, end users, understanding their requirements, understanding where their pain points are, to be able to improve on things and really progress the company to the next level that you're aiming for in that vision.
So the way to do that isn't complicated. It does take time, but it's about getting people ideally in a room, but at least virtually, and really working through your business process from end to end. And imagine that customer journey and how the different parts of the business are interacting with each other to get a customer from the first point of contact all the way through to delivery and then ongoing service. And typically what you'll see are a lot of bottlenecks, a lot of overlap, a lot of questions. Why do we do it that way? But it's a perfect starting point to get different people in the business in the room, map out the process as it is, and then you'll get a lot of buy-in for we need to change. There's opportunities here to save time. There's opportunities to make other people's lives easier in the business because we're not making them do extra work, whether it's duplicating processes, recording data that's not required. And a lot of times when it comes to manufacturing, it's about making sure the right thing gets into production so that communication with the customer translates into the right order to the factory. So there's no substitute for getting in the room, mapping out your process, looking for those bottlenecks, and then turning that into a set of requirements.
Accountability and leadership of this project is absolutely key, and it's a critical factor to making this project a success. The person in charge of this project or of any system implementation has to have sufficient standing within the business to be able to affect that change. Again, seen some examples where senior management decide on a system and go, right, there you go, and they delegate that off to somebody else thinking they've done their job. Absolutely not. Everybody from top to bottom has to be able to affect the implementation, the successful implementation of a new system.
A rule of thumb that we've kind of seen is that if it isn't hurting the business, you've chosen the wrong person to lead the change. And that speaks to somebody who's got that authority, who's got the knowledge of how the business works, the knowledge of the customers and what they expect, but also can give the leadership and the reassurance to people throughout the team that this vision that you're going to deliver on is going to be achieved through this, and that they're going to have the energy and the authority to do that. And in some cases that might be the MD or the owner of the business. In some cases it might be a senior director or somebody who's focused on business improvement. But as long as they have those attributes, yes, they're going to be away from the business as usual activity. But the benefits that you reap once you get over that hump are going to be significant. But the risks of not doing that, and again, we've seen it where somebody more junior in the business has been delegated, and either just by lacking the authority and the respect of their peers, they don't make progress, the project slows down, and then you start to get those negative outcomes.
So you've established your vision, you understand, or the whole business understands why you're doing this. The whole business is aligned, processes are mapped out, and the champion for this project has been identified. Now it's time to start looking at the available options. We had a really good example when talking to an existing customer earlier this week about how they went about their process, and they looked at what systems they had existing in the business, and what tools from an MRP CRM perspective spoke and interacted with those tools. They took advice from industry peers. They took advice from their advisors in the shape of their accountants. And they put all that together and started doing their own research in addition to all of that. And then shortlisted a couple of options. And they put that to the team as a whole, then through that trial process, so that everybody in the organization has bought into it. And there on the screen, you can see Oliver Kant from JCS Nuclear Solutions about how they went about that process. Accountants, their own research, industry peers, and understanding that the decision was a company decision in which everybody bought into the process, not just the MD.
So in Oliver's own words there, the importance of the team being engaged in that, making that decision really cemented the impact then that Marv and the team have seen in the implementation period, where everyone's been engaged. The hard tasks of preparing data, mapping processes, making adjustments to internal processes, because no software system is going to be 100% of what you want it to be. So having that pragmatism and flexibility to be able to make changes to the processes that you have currently is a lot easier whenever the whole team has bought into that.
Yeah, alignment and understanding that vision makes life so much easier.
So just to recap that, this is one of those things where you can really save yourself a lot of time to be ready to trial. Have that vision, have that team alignment, understand your processes, and that understanding then feeds into what is absolutely necessary for you to see in a system. Because that will save you a lot of time in shortlisting and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. And as Marv says, industry peers will be using similar products, so have a look at those. The key thing as well is about planning to simulate your main business processes. So again, that customer journey, and thinking about how you're going to actually take a trial order through all the different steps and involve different members of the team and see it for real. That's going to be much more effective than just watching a demo or clicking a few boxes. It will really put it through its paces. And for a company like us, we love customers who do that, because we can see that there's the commitment there, and we can validate that we're going to have a good long-term positive relationship as well. The next point is important because it's about having data ready to import. So if you've thought about your processes and you've got real data that you can import into a trial system, then it's going to make it more realistic. And then finally, think about the time it's going to take to trial these systems. Depending on the complexity of your business, it could be half a day to a day, maybe more, but be prepared to invest that time and sort of structure it and schedule it so that you'll get the most out of it.
When we get into the actual implementation side of things, as Rich, just to emphasize or re-emphasize what Rich is saying, never underestimate the time and resources that are required to implement a new system, specifically, core business systems, business critical systems, on which the day-to-day operations of a business relies on. Yes, people still have day jobs to do, but a successful implementation does rely on a strong commitment. And that's why you need that person, that champion, to be able to influence and affect that change. They have to be able to drive that. No, you need to commit time. You have to do, spend some energy into implementing a new system. One of the big things is, you've got to keep going. What we actively do within Flowlands is encourage businesses to try and break the system with their existing processes. So what we would do, for example, in the implementation, is have a sandbox site just for people to go in and try their existing processes and see if they can really put it through its paces, to give it a thorough, real life feel for what they're doing before they go into a live environment. So there are no surprises when you go live, or as little surprises as you can get before you go live. Don't try and do too much. A lot of people want to improve their processes, and that's great, but they haven't really defined what they want out of it properly. So, and nobody understands what the new process will do for the business, or actually do on a day-to-day basis. So keep it simple. Don't try and boil the ocean. Match your day-to-day workflows and processes, and you will identify, again, with the new system, you will identify bottlenecks and improvements as you go along.
So this is a quote from Ian Smith, who's MD of Fisher Smith, and again emphasizing that point about not boiling the ocean, working in a step-by-step basis, and taking the team through a managed process. And that's where, with Flowlens, unlike other subscription companies, we provide that wraparound service. So we've got that expertise and understand what those steps and the optimal kind of process is for consuming and onboarding a company onto Flowlens. But if you're choosing a platform that doesn't have that, then you still need to do it methodically. And then you can get a lot of small wins that add up into one big win, basically.
So again, just to go over some of the more common mistakes or pitfalls that we've seen along the way. No clear owner or champion. There are, people don't like change. People naturally resist change. And if you can't influence or affect that change, there's going to be an issue further down the line. Don't try and boil the ocean. Keep it simple. Match your existing processes. Bring the team along. The team is as big a part of this process, or this project finishing successfully, as it's as important as the technology. And again, yes, people do have day jobs. The business still has to run. You're repairing the aircraft while it's in flight, but don't underestimate the time that it will take for a successful implementation.
So just coming back to the headline quote, over 70% of digital transformations typically fail because of some of those aspects. And hopefully today, you know, those takeaways in terms of the alignment of your team and your goals, understanding where you are now before thinking about where you could be, and having a thorough approach to trialing options. Those are the first steps in making sure that you pick the right system. Being realistic about, unless you want to build something from scratch, which isn't really realistic these days with so many variations of cloud software, be pragmatic about what the system will and won't do. Don't underestimate the effort. Appoint the champion and celebrate the small wins with the team. And what that'll do is take you back to the start of the buyer journey, so that you'll try to check all those boxes off in the right order and end up at a much better place. And we find companies that do that will implement the solution quicker because they've got the team alignment in particular. You know, they'll get through it probably 100% faster, or they'll get through it in half the time that you won't.
Yeah, and again, it's like any project, no matter what it is, whether it's software or buying a new machine or a new process, it's all about planning, plan as much as you can before you actually start doing. And that's business objectives, aligning the team, get everybody bought in, decide what you want to do, and then go and start finding the right tool for the job.
I like this quote: "Do great work, not grunt work." You know,
Agree.
An end to spreadsheet hell. So thanks very much, guys. That takes us through the presentation. Appreciate your time and attention. See a couple of questions coming in here. Marv, one question here about implementing a system by yourself versus having a partner to do it with you. You know, what would you see the main differences being in doing it yourself versus?
I think it's going to boil down to a few things. It's going to boil down to your own level of knowledge. I guess you wouldn't select a tool if you weren't fully aware of what you wanted to achieve and how your industry works. Understanding that, or being pragmatic about, no two systems work exactly the same. So whilst you might have an understanding of, let's say, CRM systems, they don't all work exactly the same. So each system will have its own nuance. Will it be quicker having a partner involved who's more knowledgeable on a specific system? Yeah, probably. Going as opposed to going out and finding out all these things by yourself, it will take you slightly longer. And do you trust yourself to do the right thing? I don't know. Mm-hmm. We've all tried software before and done things that didn't realize it did this or didn't realize it did that. So yeah.
I suppose it is handy having somebody who knows all the nooks and crannies of a system, but equally, and we see that in our own scenario when people come to us and they want to trial the software and they don't really want any help. They just want to jump in, and it's because they've had that experience with other similar products and they just want to give it a go. Good stuff. And the other question, in terms of balancing requirements, so you've got different teams in the business. How do you, who gets the trump card in terms of sales or finance here? But that's a good general question. Yeah. When you've got that full team that are looking at a system, and maybe some areas are weaker or stronger than others, who gets the trump card?
That's the $50 million question, and I think that comes down to the alignment aspect of it again, where depending who in the business is driving it, whether if it's the boss, well, people are generally going to do what he says. From who provides the most feedback or the best feedback and has the biggest sway in it, I think the way to look at it, or that I've looked at it previously, is where does it have the biggest impact in the business? And again, if everybody understands that it impacts the bottom line, or it frees up a bottleneck somewhere along the line, then that's great. You're never going to make everybody happy, and there will always be change, and it's being able to manage that change throughout the process that's going to be key.
Good stuff. Are there any other questions? Sorry. I'm just going to stop the screen share for a second. The integration of the system will require a behavioral change from the team. From your experience, how have companies overcame that resistance, ensuring it doesn't fall by the wayside? Thanks, Owen.
Yeah, momentum is key. What we focus on as a business is striking while the iron is hot. So somebody's made a buying decision, they're keen, they're enthusiastic. So for us, it's important to capitalize really, really quickly on that energy and that momentum, so that we can make sure that they stay engaged for as long as possible. We believe in a proactive approach from our side, as we're equally as responsible as the person who's championing it, the project internally. So it's about working and collaborating together to make sure that the project is a success. It's all about momentum. But if you have alignment, the right champion, and the process is mapped out and everybody's on that same page, it makes life a whole lot easier, a whole lot easier. People will resist change, but 9 times out of 10, talking it through, transparency within the business makes a big difference. I'm not sure, hopefully that's answered your question on.
Okay, well, thanks very much again to everyone for attending. Appreciate your time and attention. And this has been a bit of a learning experience for us as well, but it's been fun pulling together a lot of the learning that we've had from all of the different customer experiences and from the process that we've put in place ourselves. And we'll be doing more webinars in the future, so please come back, and thanks again for your time.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers. Bye bye.